I'll get back to that music, folks, but I've got Leigh Thomas Brown on the phone right now. A little introduction. You've heard me talking about her. You just heard that little audio clip that I just played. Leigh Thomas is a very successful real estate broker. She's a wife. She's a mother. She's a motivational speaker. She's an author. She does it all. She's been on, I think, 5 continents. That's the answering machine because that's the answering machine because I didn't get to the to shut that off quick enough. She's been around the world, but she has taken up the torch and is working for the greater good on Hurricane Helene response in North Carolina, not to take away from the other states. Leigh, are you there?
I am. Good morning. It's good to be with you and your listeners.
Yeah, it's good morning for you, but it's a good evening for us.
Well, I have to keep my obligations covered and sure hated to head out of town at a time like this, but technology allows for a lot.
Right, and I can't thank you enough because I know that, at least in my opinion, you're burning the candle at both ends. I don't know when you sleep. I don't sleep much, but I think you've got me beat.
I don't know that that's anything to brag about.
No, probably not, and rightly so. We are not discounting what's about to happen again in Florida, what's happened in Kentucky and Tennessee and Georgia and South Carolina. But you're from North Carolina. Where do you live in North Carolina?
I actually live in Cabarrus County, which is a little over an hour outside the affected zone. And I'm fortunate that at my house we had some flooding in the yard, but the house is fine, and we lost power, but it came back. So we're good, and that's allowed me to be a hub and spoke to send relief up into as many affected areas as we can through a network of grassroots people who just want to help their neighbors.
People are good. I mean, you know what I'm doing here at the radio station. People are crawling out of the woodwork, digging deep to help out. And I stayed up till like 4:30 one morning just watching video of what was going on in the mountains of North Carolina. Like you said, I don't know how many towns are gone. I do believe Chimney Rock is pretty much wiped out.
That is correct, and that's the town proper. And the bigger challenge there right now is, in addition to our geography changing, you've got residents in that area that live up in the mountains and down in the hollers, and then to get to them, the driveways are gone, the roads are broken, and the only way we can get to those folks is through ATV. So it's an arduous process just trying to reach our folks, and we've been so grateful to the pilots that have done the helicopter and air support, but we have to have ATV crews on the ground because if you notice the geography, the tree cover is so heavy that you can't just land a helicopter anywhere. You have to have ATV crews that have gone in and cleared for helicopters to do life support, and it's a process unlike anything that I think's ever been undertaken. It's not an urban environment, not a flat environment like Florida has, and definitely not diminishing what goes on in Florida, but it's a different set of circumstances that we're all learning as we go.
Like I was telling somebody else today, the volunteers running these helicopters don't run on just plain thanks. They're expensive to run. The ATVs, these people are just donating their time and their money to help these folks out. Is there anything left of Swannanoa?
Not much. So that was where the flooding was very intense there on the French Broad River, and there's not much left there, but there are definitely humans there, and the volunteer fire department has just done a yeoman's job. And I don't know that people understand how valuable the old school systems are. The volunteer fire department knows where every neighbor is, and they know their needs. And so the diabetic folks, the VFD knows who needs insulin, and so they've been just, I mean, you talk about heroes. They are just heroes with the work that they've done and are continuing to do.
And I think the same case for Montreat and Lake Lure. There's not much left, is there?
No, and for your listeners who are trying to remember why Lake Lure sounds familiar, that's where Last of the Mohicans was filmed, and, of course, one of my favorite movies, and everybody else in my generation, Dirty Dancing, that's the area that was filmed, and a lot of the landmarks are gone. But what's, astonishing is they haven't received as much help as other areas. I mean, they have now because the neighbors have stepped up, but it just took longer to get there. But Montreat's pretty much gone. That's Billy Graham's home. Lake Lure's had insane damage. Swannanoa's mainly gone. Chimney Rock's gone. We just sent some support to a hamlet called Rollins. Rollins on the Nolichucky River had about 15 houses there, very small hamlet, and there's only 4 left. The rest of the houses are gone, so we've been trying to get them support, and we got them day before yesterday. We got them generators and dehumidifiers so that the contractors up there can hopefully save those 4 houses. And it's just, you think about disaster relief and you forget that it's not just the flooding, it's how can we actually save the structure so that people can stay where they live, and that's their home. They don't want to leave. Of course, if you listen to the people on the internet, they should just move and blah, 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 and not safe and all these crap talkers. But mountain people don't leave. That's their home. That's their people. They're a different breed in the Appalachian Mountains, and God love them. They're my favorites.
I've got to agree that there are a lot of crap talkers on the internet. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. I think the one picture that has stuck with me more than any other is the picture of Lake Lure that looks like you could walk across it for the rubble. I don't know how you can clean up Lake Lure.
Well, they'll figure it out. Mountain people figure things out, but we have to get the government out of the way. FEMA is not helpful, and if you ever wondered if it's true or not what we're saying about FEMA, just notice that if the White House is tweeting that they should be supported, and if FEMA's fussing that their employees aren't getting enough love, then the people on the ground are actually right, because every time the regime gets behind something, it's off. And we've been figuring it out. I mean, you've got former special ops and military that have been running these rescue missions on ATVs in the mountains, and they're far more effective than any bureaucrats. So I put my stock in my people, not in bureaucrats.
I'm just glad that I happened upon you. Actually, my wife happened upon one of your videos on the internet, and lucky for me, you answer when people look for you. You answer. You answered me right back. I want to throw a big shout out to my cousin Greg Langheim, who lives out in North Carolina, and his wife Carol, who is a realtor. They sent me a picture of them on Lake Lure. It's a beautiful lake, and the comparison before and after, night and day.
It's hard to get your mind around how the geography's been changed forever. And I was talking to a friend tonight. The grief is so interesting because my family is North Carolina. We've been here since the 1600s. My DAR patriots are all, I'm a member of the DAR, and all of my patriot ancestors are North Carolinians. And when you look at where you've spent your whole life going for weekends, vacations, shopping, visiting friends, the whole kit and caboodle, there's a grief for the geography, and a grief for these towns, and a grief for the history, in addition to the constant grief for those who've been lost. I mean, it's just so all-encompassing, it's hard to get your mind around, and I think for some folks it won't even hit until they try to do their regular family Christmas tree run. I mean, North Carolina, one of our biggest economic drivers is the Christmas tree industry, and that's just been decimated for who knows how long. And that's just one of the things that hasn't even really cropped up in the public eye yet.
I have been trying to downsize in my own house, and it makes it trivial or seem real easy when you realize the people that have been downsized to absolutely nothing. I like what you said about the banks would rather foreclose on nothing than write it off. Some of these.
I haven't heard anything back, and I hope that somebody responds to that, because if they can play these games in Washington, D.C. of bribing voters by writing off student loans for people who knew exactly what they were taking loans out for and got worthless degrees, you'd think something could be done for people who have just had their lives ripped out from under them. And these are American citizens. These are taxpayers, and I feel that there's going to be long-term trauma to them financially. I don't know what the answers are. I don't have the answers. I'm certainly not the one that makes all the decisions, but I hope that we get some thoughtful people involved in the process, and I think that's what we're missing right now in the country is thoughtful people, so I'm just going to have to remain hopeful.
There's not a whole lot of common sense out there. I've got a career Navy buddy out in California saying, where was the government response? He said, I saw 100,000 troops mobilized in another country in 72 hours. Don't tell me we can't do something if we want to do it.
No, and don't tell me FEMA's broke when they just wrote another check to Lebanon. And when I was listening to the White House press secretary, she's talking about loans from the SBA to people. Well, why are you making loans to the U.S. citizens, but you make a gift to other countries? I don't see why anybody supports this.
I don't.
It doesn't make any sense.
We all see what's getting shipped overseas to countries that don't like us. We see what's going to Ukraine. I've seen the lists of the supplies that could be used out there. It is maddening when you look at it that way. These people, I'll tell you what, I saw your comments on insurance. If I lived in the mountains, I don't think I would worry about flood insurance.
No, I mean, now we always tell people on the real estate side, we have to always be thoughtful about even the rare occurrences. And I tell people, if it rains where you are, it can flood. That's absolutely true. But when people are evaluating the risks and they're evaluating their dollars, and we're in a highly inflationary economy right now, well, you probably don't have the extra dollars to buy flood insurance when you're on a mountainside, then it just, I don't know. But the flood insurance program's broken regardless. I mean, we in real estate have been pressing for reform to the flood insurance program for decades, and Congress doesn't ever make any improvements on it, and that's not partisan. That's all of them. Because at this point, I'm convinced it's not one party versus the other. It's the bureaucrats and the elites in D.C. versus the rest of us. So you've got a broken program that nobody has an intention to fix, and then you fuss at the people who didn't take advantage of a broken program. None of it adds up. And we at some point have to have intelligent people back in charge.
Yeah, I was just talking to my insurance guy today, and just this little town of 1,700, probably 3% have flood insurance. I don't have flood insurance, but if we got 20 inches of rain, I'd be flooded. Same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the river went above any stage they've ever seen. I mean, the French Broad River landed 4 feet above the highest recorded level, which was in 1916. That's not something that normal people process and plan for, and it's frankly unfair of the people who are out there saying that they should have planned better. Well, nobody plans for something that happened over 100 years ago. That's not realistic.
Right. I don't even call it a 1,000-year flood. I call it a once-in-a-lifetime, never happened before flood. The death toll, last time I looked, it was like 230, but that's missing a digit. There's over 1,000 dead. There's over 1,000 unidentified neighbors in Asheville alone, and there's morgue trucks that are full. But these are hard to identify because the cadaver dogs right now are still finding bodies, and now you're talking 10 days later, so the decomposition has set in. There was a post that Laura Loomer put on X yesterday, and it's actually very true. The buzzards are very active right now because of the hard task of finding our neighbors, and I refuse to call them bodies. These are our neighbors, and I think we're dehumanizing the people who were taken down in this flood, and it's hard to process, but there's so many people out there looking for family members with no answers, and I think the not knowing is harder than when you do know, because you still have that hope that they've somehow made it and have been out of communication, but I don't know. It's probably the biggest natural disaster in American history, and hopefully the history books will be written correctly to talk about what happened so that we can honor those that were lost and how we can make things more efficient so that this doesn't happen in this way again. I would never wish this on anybody. Right. I think, like you say, this death toll, it's brutal to talk about, but I think there's refrigerated trucks filled with people waiting for identification, and it's just going to skyrocket once they get into it, and I hope it doesn't get downplayed. It shouldn't get downplayed, but just Asheville alone, the death toll, let alone what they're finding in some of these rivers and streams, and like you say, trees everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Are there really land grabs going on?
Well, that is something that North Carolina does not have as much risk of, and we're very grateful because our state constitution prohibits illegal takings. So the risk that our citizens have is that they will have investors and shady investors come through to try and buy their stuff on the cheap. So the realtors are hopefully going to be able to get a information campaign out just to tell people don't sell without talking to somebody first. Don't make any hasty moves. I wouldn't put it past our government to do land grabs, but I'm very grateful that in this great constitutional republic we've had excellent leadership in our legislature for some time, and I've talked to the Speaker of the House, and he feels confident that our state constitution will protect the folks in Chimney Rock and these other areas. We just have to reach them and tell them do not be desperate and take the first check that comes your way. But the good news is mountain people have no intention of leaving, so I don't think they can be run off as easily as the internet thinks they can.
Yeah, there are a lot of conspiracy theories, especially with the big factory, the chip factory that produces the quartz. I don't know if there's a big lithium mine out that way. Of course, there's a lot of conspiracy.
There's a huge lithium vein, and it runs all the way from Asheville down through Gaston County, and there's been a lot of investing done in that lithium mine because, of course, that's the thing they need for batteries. The town of Spruce Pine sits where there is a quartz that is only found in that one place on planet Earth, and that quartz is used in semiconductors. The town of Spruce Pine, of course, got hit pretty hard, and FEMA has been running workers out of there, so I think all of us are just trying to make sure that anybody that owns property is not signing anything at this point.
That quartz, I think it's the purest in the world. So I know the tech industry is a little bit worried about that. I've been collecting here, and I think we're directing all ours towards Samaritan's Purse. I think they were one of the first boots on the ground. I think it's a great organization. What's your take on Samaritan's Purse?
Love Samaritan's Purse. Of course, that's Franklin Graham's ministry. That's Billy Graham's boy. They've been on the ground since day one. They rolled their semis into Boone, which is in Watauga County, and they have been a hub for volunteer work and really done a great job with organization and distribution. I think their challenge right now is they've received so much volunteer requests, they can't deploy everybody, so we keep talking to people that really want to help, and there's not space for everybody who wants to help today, but for those that would like to be boots on the ground volunteers, the need is going to go on for months. So just because you can't come in this week doesn't mean we won't need you a month from now. And the dollars are, I know, being deployed as quickly as they can because, of course, winter weather is hitting now, and now we're talking about the need for blankets, sleeping bags, gloves, socks, and Samaritan's Purse is as equipped as anybody to get that done. So we're pleased to have them in the state and pleased for the work they've been doing for sure.
Now, the reason I like Samaritan's Purse so well, and I know there's other good charities, but you look at a lot of high-name charities, well, most of the money goes to the overhead and not the people. I believe over 90 cents on the dollar of Samaritan's Purse goes out to the people. I know you've mentioned in your videos some good organizations. I don't know much about the Cajun Navy, but I think.
Well, no, we need to put a pause on that because I'm finding some things out about that. So I cannot recommend any dollars going to them at this point. But that's a video for another time as I get more information.
Okay, I know that there's got to be a fund supporting some of these private pilots, like I say, for fuel, things like that.
Well, if you look on Facebook and Instagram, most of them are running their own GoFundMes, and so you could look them up and support as you can because they've been using their own fuel. And if you want to figure out where they're located, most of them have been running out of the Statesville Airport or the Hickory Airport. So anything running out of Statesville or Hickory, you can find a lot of those flight operations there.
Okay. Besides North Carolina, what do you think the next worst state hit? Possibly Georgia or Tennessee?
I'd say Tennessee because the the way that we've been hit in the mountains, remember, they're just right on the other side of the state line where I-40 broke, and so we've lost our main connector from east to west until they can get that highway fixed. And you had a lot of towns in Tennessee that got completely washed out. And so any folks that look on that side, there's a lot of small towns and relief efforts going on there as well. I'm not up to speed on Georgia and Florida. I know there was flooding. It was just not as catastrophic as North Carolina, because just for reference, the geographic area that's impacted in this scenario is as big as the state of Massachusetts. That's how we're talking a huge swath of geography that got hit. So between Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina got hammered in the upstate, and like the Greenville area just got power back last week, well, like Friday, like the end of the week. And the town of Lawrence was a mess. Their power grid's gone. They got to rebuild the power grid. It's just widespread. And the reason my videos focus on North Carolina, that's where I am. I can't help everybody, so I just focus my efforts in the area that I can help. But there's definitely organizations all over for the people who have a connection to wherever.
Well, you are leading a snowball. You know, I found you, and that led to this. It's got to lead to, it's a good thing, and the devastation can't be overstated. And somebody like you comes along, somebody like me happens upon it, and look what the good's coming out of this. People are sending money, and we're going to help out as many people as we can. I like what you say. If you can't donate, at least say a prayer for these people, because they got nothing.
Absolutely, and prayer's our most important weapon, not our least important. So we just keep folks focused on that and know that this is a moment to pull together.
Well, there's a lot of maddening things going on out there, but there are a lot of good things. And don't cut yourself too short on sleep. We need you, Leigh.
Well, I'm doing the best I can, and just trying to hold the pieces together.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time. You got anything else for us before we go back to the regularly scheduled program?
No, I will just point one thing out, that any of your listeners who were able to share the truth coming out of Western North Carolina, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, please keep sharing it, because the social media algorithms are policing information now. A lot of my videos are getting suppressed because the algorithms are looking for pro-FEMA, pro-government posts, and the censorship is alive and well even after a natural disaster. So if you see something, share it and help us keep people informed, because this need is not going anywhere, and I'm not going to let this get swept under the rug. So just be a part of that effort too. That's another way you can support. If you don't have the dollars to send, you can be a voice on the internet. That changing that algorithm, that is maddening. And
another thing that's maddening is when people were hacking your Cash App and Venmo. I tell you what, you made me cry on that video.
Well, I'm still mad about that, because these scammers are taking dollars out of the pockets of victims, and we had this Open a Give Send to Go, which is the Christian version of GoFundMe, so that we could get the dollars not scammed, and we can turn them around back out there. But these scammers are pretending to be me online, taking money, and then keeping it. And that's a special place in hell for those people, and pardon my French. But I just got a call this morning. Somebody pretending to be me was calling people in Minnesota, saying she was putting together a trailer, but she needed some gift cards and cash for her transmission. And this lady reached out and said, "Is this you?" And I said, "Absolutely not." So if these scammers that are using my name and my face for their own purposes, well, I hope they get punished for it. So just be careful, y'all. If you're making donations, if it's an organization like Samaritan's Purse, make sure you're on the correct website. It's got the correct little security things and the domain. And if you're donating to somebody like me, then do it. Verify the link through direct message to me, and actually direct message. You got to be careful with that too. So just be smart and be helpful and be smart. And I hope Venmo will get their act together.
All right. Well, we're going to be hearing from the man, Jason Kimak at Samaritan's Purse tomorrow. He'll give us a little more guidance, and maybe a little bit further on down the road, you'll be so gracious as to check in with us again once you're back home.
You got it. Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it and what you're doing to help my people. It is very appreciated.
All right. Well, thanks again. Have a good day. And can't thank you enough. And can't thank you enough for taking this on, picking up the torch and running with it. You are doing You are doing God's work.
It's what we do.
All right. Well, have a good day, and we'll chat with you again.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thanks a lot, Leigh. Goodbye.